Typical.
I know, Vanessa. I know.
Oh, no. It's all coming
Okay,
out
and
now.
steady down, simmer down. Welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John.
We're live.
It's mine. And you're very welcome to all Broadsheet readers, commenters, any sort of stray guy, just finding us, and all the trolls, all you trolls. Very naughty this week. A whole squadron of nihilistic trolls started on Monday and haven't let up. But on the panel tonight is Lucky Kumbula, who is sort of a representative for Direct Provision. We just had him on the line there a second ago, but his Wi-Fi is not great, so we're going to go back to him. We have Neil Curran joining us, and he's a new father, and Vanessa Foran, accountant and forensic insolvency expert. And joining us later is going to be Olga Cronin and Johnny Keenan and a couple of other people. We're here for 2 hours, so you can dip in, dip out, join us at any time, mute, pause. Anyway, okay.
Make us all a cup of tea.
Make us all a cup of tea. Vanessa, I wanted to go straight to you because after we sent the themes today, you wrote back and you said, "What about the World Cup bid?"
Yeah.
So you were you disappointed, or were you expecting it to be?
No, I had no thoughts on it really. I suppose actually the only thought I had was that Donald Linehan was right. He said they'd go with the medium, the middle guy, and that was France. But I just thought the story really that the poor old Joes had no friends in the end. You know, the Scots and the Welsh didn't vote for them. You know?
Yeah. Why didn't they vote for them?
I don't know. You asked them. I don't know. But I mean, the bid was backed by over 20 million from I don't know what department. Obviously, it could easily be the Department of An Taoiseach, but it was heavily invested in. And I'm not going to start a row now, but I mean, a significant part of the stadium were amateur owned, amateur Gaelic Games, an amateur organisation owned. And
do you know how much was spent on the bid so far?
It was over 20 million, obviously, because they got over 20 million. And
over 20 million has been spent.
But maybe that was only up to this point, and then there was going to be more spent on promoting it and developing a logo and all this. I don't know, but I just thought when the voting came out, and but it got very bitchy as well when the report came out and they were voted last.
Yeah,
and they started to get a bit bitchy, didn't they? And then when it was announced on Tuesday, I think, or Wednesday, I thought the reaction of like the general manager of the Irish Rugby, and I thought it was very nasty, you know, saying, "Oh, it was all it wasn't very international, like ambassadorial, you know, sportsmanlike or anything like that." I just thought it was all very bitchy, like it was all very.
Yeah, well,
a minor club poaching another player from another parish type stuff, you know.
Well, Aaron, who McAlorum, works in our sports desk tirelessly every day, he is unavailable tonight, but he wrote this today. He said, "If the IRFU considered their hosting of the recent Ladies World Cup here as a huge success, and they're out of their element, our ladies team should have been in Lansdowne Road at prime time on a Saturday night. Instead, they were in a UCD Bowl on a Wednesday evening. In terms of infrastructure, we don't have an all-island transport network. Motorway roads don't serve all regions. The train network expensive, blah, blah, blah. And broadband." And he says he could rant and rave all day. He said it was sort of ill-conceived or ill-conceived, the bid. But you were saying that they were going to use GAA grounds.
Yeah. I certainly know 2 of the grounds. Well, Croke Park was going to be used. That's 3, and Fitzgerald Stadium in Killarney, which is a great venue, despite my own affiliations. And Park Keeve was to be used. Right. I don't know if Thurles was to be used, but I know those 3 grounds were being used.
And Neil, were you just disappointed? You're not a rugby man.
I was very disappointed. No, I'm not a rugby person. I just fall off my chair at how much money gets spent in the whole bidding process, and given there's clearly something amiss when they, in the same breath, when the France been chosen, they're also saying we're reviewing the process, and no one's been naughty. So sport's like politics, isn't it? Everyone's full of shite.
I just thought it was all very bitchy in the end, you know.
And this is the quote from Aaron. Up to June, the bid lads spent 750,000 on the bid out of a pot of 1.2 million.
Who spent 750?
The bid lads.
Okay.
Spent 750,000 on a bid pot out of 1.2 million. It came out of a grant aid from Fáilte Ireland.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they exhausted the funds by last week. The 1.2 million.
No, I think Leo made a far bigger sum available to the team.
That could be entertainment. That could be the entertainment bill.
Well, look, it was far bigger than that was spent on putting that bid together.
Why did you want to talk about it tonight?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention it, that I just thought the reaction to them not winning the bid was a bit...
Oh, right.
You know, I found the comments made, and that...
Is it a case of sore losers, Vanessa?
And I don't know, but I mean, it did come across as a bit immature and bitchy, really, the reactions that were posted, and that they were going to be having words with Scotland and Wales.
Yeah,
and
I saw
stuff
that.
like that. I mean, we're talking about a World Cup bid here. It's $1 billion industry, you know, and.
But these are guys who snap towels at each other in dressing room. And we're talking, it's rugby. You know, it is like macho and tiresome. When they lost the first round, or when South Africa beat them in the first round, Shane Ross started saying that all the South African stadiums would be empty. You know, or just sort of like.
Yeah, but it did. That's what I mean. It wasn't very.
Sportsmanlike.
It's the sportsmanlike, but I mean, we're talking about the event would be probably one of the biggest sporting events in in that calendar year.
Yeah.
A little bit bitchy, wasn't it? Like, no, I'm not saying the other sports are clean as a whistle when it comes to competing for hosting. You know, whether it's the Olympics or the soccer, or, you know. But I just thought the reaction was a bit.
Okay. Well, I thought when you wrote it back that you had to have a bit more to say about it, Vanessa. That's fair.
Well, why don't you talk about it, Jan?
Well, you suggested it. That's all. And I'm joking. Johnny,
Well,
I think our love affair with rugby is a very bizarre one. When I was in school in California, there was no one. We didn't play rugby. Rugby was a Dublin 4 game, and it was for sissies. And now everyone loves rugby. What happened?
John, did you play rugby?
I played rugby. Yeah, I did. But I don't know what happened. Neil, one minute I was at Glasgow Road, and in the programme they had the profession of each rugby player, like solicitor, farmer, accountant, and then suddenly it was all steroids and big money and.
Well, that's what happened. They started getting paid to play rugby, and then.
Exactly, yeah. There no longer need to be solicitors as well as professional players.
Maybe that'll happen to the GAA one day.
I think
they'll
at
get their
the
break.
county level it will, yeah.
Can I say hello to Johnny Keenan?
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny.
How are you guys? Are you well?
Yeah, we didn't recognise you, Johnny. It's been so long.
Thanks, Vanessa. Well, yeah, it's been long, all right, but anyway, we're back. Can you hear me? All right.
Welcome back, Johnny. I'm glad you came back just for the rugby discussion, at least, so you could add your knowledge to the debate.
Well, I thought you'd be all part of that debate now. I'm disappointed.
Great.
But Johnny, you were at the football match on Tuesday, so it's been a bad week, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's been a terrible week. The football, we were great on Saturday night. And sure, you know that we got the two pairs of tickets. Premier tickets were raffled last Sunday, and we're like I said, went to real fans.
You were there though, were you in the?
Yeah. Stephen actually got 2 tickets from another friend of his who was able to acquire them and gave them to myself. We gave them to Steve, and Steve delightfully gave me one. So
very
we're
nice.
happy.
Okay,
Yeah, it was great. Which is, you know, going in and a 0-all first leg in Copenhagen, and then, you know, all to play for in Dublin. So I thought we were going to win, man. Everyone believed we were going to win, but then the first goal, I suppose, kind of came. Everyone was kind of very nervous about it. It came nearly too early in relation to Ireland's. Ireland getting an early goal is always tenterhooks, and so it didn't last long anyway. So they were able to turn around 2 goals, and then after that they were broke. O'Neill didn't have Plan B. For me, Houlihan should have been on from the start, and we should have attacked them. And the manager even said that he couldn't believe he had it down that they're going to play the diamond formation, and he actually did that. So they were able to pick them off one by one, so it was easy. And your man Eriksson, you know, typical Spurs man, lethal. You know, he's absolutely lethal, and he got half chances there, and he executed. I mean, brilliant to see him. You know, always brilliant to get the Lansdowne Road and experience. You know, because football, when you see it live, it's a lot different than on the telly, because you see players creating space, getting in. It's very tactical, you know. In relation from a viewer's perspective, everyone is very rugby's the game now. Rugby is the man's and all this kind of stuff. It's hard. It's about real sport, real terrestrial, whatever you call it. Gets the blood boiling and all that. Soccer does all that when it's played well. Unfortunately, O'Neill had a system, and he didn't want players to play individually like the way they could have done, and maybe that would have changed. And they say it can't be done. So there's a post-mortem after Ireland not qualifying, and everyone's saying at least we had the rugby. That was people going out of Lansdowne Road Tuesday night. At least we have the rugby to look forward to. We're going to get the Rugby World Cup and everything. And soccer is shit now. It's shit now anyway. So come on, rugby. Yeah. So I don't get the whole rugby buzz myself, because I'm just I believe in football is a beautiful game. More people in the world play football. Rugby is still elitist. It might not be in Ireland. It might be open to an awful lot of people. But if it wasn't professional, there wouldn't be that many people going for it. Yeah. So when you bring in the GEA to that, and hopefully, Vanessa, that they will see in the near future inter-county players getting paid at least. And that's not professionalism. It means that, you know, they're not out of pocket. That would be a big move in relation to GEA. But the problem with Ireland is too small.
But I can't see it happening, say, at semi-final level. Once they get through the knockouts to semi-final level.
Absolutely, pay to play. The money is there. You know, it's like anything. If you're getting the tickets sold, someone has to get. You know, Marky Morrissey is getting paid. Every sports journalist is getting paid in the country. Yeah. There's so many money making money, and the entertainment doesn't get paid. I've been asking the question for years, but I think everyone is beginning to ask the question. So if you compare Irish soccer team to Northern Ireland soccer team, for example, they're way behind. Compare them to Iceland, a population of 300,000, way behind. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong in relation to the way we look after the players. Or I can't say that none of them are proud to wear Irish. I really felt bad for James McLean. You know, he's just a genius of a player, and he works hard the whole time. And he wears his heart in his sleeve. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So I'm really sorry for him. But I didn't like the backlash either that the Irish fans weren't. Some of them left early in that.
Well, it was 5-1. You know, it's after 4-3. You know.
You know, €75 is a lot of money to pay. So I wouldn't say that any of them were reluctantly not supporting the team. So I think, in fairness, Ireland team is always well supported, and I think it will be again. But unfortunately, O'Neill has to change style, because at the end of the day, it's entertainment we want to go and see. I don't care if Ireland get bet 5-0 as long as they go and play football.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not prepared to look at paint try.
Fascinating.
Johnny, what club
Hi,
would
guys.
you know?
Spurs.
Lucky.
London.
Well, I've been supporting them since 1981. So.
Lucky, we can't see it. We can just see it.
Talking.
Our title.
See a revolution. The
Can't see me. How come?
I can't see you, but we can.
What do I need to do?
Turn on camera.
The camera's the thing. I think.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
Johnny, let me ask you a question. Ireland's always played a very boring game. Do you ever think we had an exciting period football wise? And let's avoid the 88. You know.
No. Absolutely.
Did we ever play? And is there any possibility of us ever having a strong team? Because I wonder if people got jaded of the soccer and leaned towards rugby because we were a good team when it comes to rugby.
Yeah. And it's a completely different game, and Britain as well in this. That's a good question. Yeah, we don't have time for divers, and you see it. This gamesmanship that an awful lot of the teams have got on, taking them 5 minutes to trottle off when there's a substitute and they're winning, feigning injury, all this kind of stuff. Ireland has never done that, and so there's and then for Irish people to say that football is not a man's game, where rugby is the real game, and they're looking for this hard hitting and. Sport is sport. It has many different factions. But in relation to there was a fantastic team there in the 70s and early 80s. We should have qualified for the 82 World Cup. Brilliant team. Stapleton, O'Leary, Tony Galvin, Johnny Giles was manager. That carried on. So all around that time. But when Charlton came, he inherited a fantastic team. But the thing was, Charlton's very same as O'Neill. O'Neill followed Charlton. Had a system in place, the long ball, and not allowing the players to play. But the thing was, that was the calling card. But but they really had Charlton had unbelievable players at his disposal. Like Liam Brady was probably one of the best players in the world at the time.
Yeah.
When he was playing with Italy, and Frank Stapleton, all the guys that I mentioned, but also Ray Houghton, John Aldridge, and they were all playing first team football in the Premiership. So that's not the case now. It's not the case now, and so the whole thing has to be looked at in relation to where these Irish guys go. Because there's no point in them going to first division if they're talking about international football. They might need to look at something like Holland, Belgium, somewhere even France. I don't think the Spanish or Italian style of football would suit Irish players. But having said it, if you go back to 1970s when they had total football, what the Dutch had, and they were unlucky not to win the World Cup in '74, they were beaten by Germany, and '78, Argentina. But they had put in their academies from an early age. This is what we're going to have the next generation. And Belgium did it as well. I don't know, it's a similar style of football. Group of 14-year-olds, and now look probably the best players in the Premiership. So Belgium are probably going to be one of the main contenders for the World Cup. What are Belgium? Population of 15 million, size of Munster. So it's not about population. It's about the mentality, and we need to kind of hone an academy if we're going to be serious about competing in 20 years' time. I mean, now's the time to kind of actually look at that kind of example, or we're just going to be having this conversation again in 4 years' time, But it's unfortunate. But just to finish on it, John, Steve was going to Broadsheet this morning, so he got an awful lot of fundraising, an awful lot of goodwill, and people were very supportive of him.
Brilliant.
It was great to see him in Lansdowne because he hadn't been there for a very long while.
It was a fabulous photograph, actually, that you tweeted. Fabulous. And come here, did he make his target in the end?
Bit shy, but they're ongoing campaigns because a line of clothing was set up, the Art Disruptors,
right.
liberationclothing.eu. So he's going, if you want to buy a t-shirt or a hoodie, half of the cost goes to Stephen's fund. I get that man a pint is still ongoing. So after the fact, when he comes back in January, because there's consultants and all this kind of stuff, aftercare, But he's happy going away. That's
good.
No, this is Stephen
It was a fabulous photograph, actually. I'll try. I should have put it onto the stick.
Do if you can. Stephen Garland, who was on the show last week, brilliant. He's a great guest, irrespective of
very positive guy. Yeah. So when someone's going to Russia, that's the most important thing. We will have an Irish representation in Russia.
And he'll be there for till March, will it?
No, actually December, but he'll be back home and
convalescent till March.
Yeah, exactly, John. Yeah.
Hello. Lucky Kambula, can you hear us, Lucky?
Hi. Yeah,
Hi, Lucky.
Johnny.
How are you?
How's it going, buddy?
I
Hello,
can hear
buddy.
you, yes.
Yeah,
I'm all right,
we're not
thank
having
you.
much luck. Can you hear us, Lucky?
Yeah, it sounds, I can hear you, but I don't know what's...
It's a terrible line. Lucky, just try one more time and turn off your computer entirely, I would say.
Let me see if okay, let me use that.
Okay.
I'll use the phone.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I'll try and use the phone.
Thank you, Lucky. Thanks.
All right, I'll come back. I'll come back.
Thanks, Lucky. This is the rural broadband quagmire that we face at least once a month. Johnny, how's your Wi-Fi? It's not great tonight either. Hello?
Hello?
Johnny? Okay, it is not great.
Oh yeah, sorry, no, I'm just using the mic there, on and off. Sorry about that, John. No, the Wi-Fi is its usual mediocre, so I apologise.
Not at all, not at all. Vanessa, I'll go straight to you and talk about Barry Walsh, this Fine Gael, former young Fine Gael president or chairman.
See, he's vice chair of the party, I think, isn't he?
He's not the executive, yeah, but he was, back in 2010, he was chairman of the Young Fine Gael.
Okay.
Well, I was going back over him today. Now, he's the guy who's called everyone a bitch online.
Oh, and the C word as well, I think, and all sorts of... Oh, terrible. Terrible stuff.
But to name people like Mary Lou MacDonald and Ruth Coppinger, I think.
I know, and Sabina Higgins and...
Yeah, Sabina. He called her vile.
Yeah, I don't know. But do you know, the thing is...
The language
there he is there, right? The language is extraordinary. And it's clear he's an issue with women, right? But he has been... Fine Gael were aware of his attitude to women, and because there had been a complaint in
well, those tweets
to HQ.
Yeah, Vanessa, they go back. One of the tweets went back to 2015. The one to Mary Lou MacDonald calling her a bitch. And
yeah, and I don't know if Mary Lou made a complaint, but a party member made a complaint after the general election that was 2016, and it was Stephanie Regan, and
who's she now? Is she a TD?
She was a candidate in... No, she's not TD. She didn't get through, but she was a candidate in the general election, and she actually is quite... She has an interesting connection, actually, because she worked in the National Gallery as I think a psychotherapist as well, and managed all their bullying complaints, and then subsequently became a victim herself in Fine Gael when this guy Barry was director of elections, I think, for Dublin Bay North in the last general election, and so she made a complaint to HQ, and they obviously, that was 18 months ago, pretty much, so, or 12 months ago, and they just left him there, you know. But like, if Leo has his own communications unit, you'd think they'd have had all these.
Yeah, sorry, just so she had complained and they hadn't adjudicated on the decision.
Well, maybe they did. I got the impression that she was happy with the agreement they came to her with. Now, whether it was they'd put her on the ticket the next time or they'd pay off her deposit, I don't know. But she did say, I think it might have been on 5/7 Live or something, she did say she was satisfied with the settlement anyway. But all that aside, Fine Gael were aware that they had an executive member that's been a dick to women, and they just didn't haul him in or did nothing about it.
Yeah,
when I say that this behaviour is endemic and it's going on and it's all been facilitated between the Gate and the Arts Council and all this, of the Fine Gael.
But I've always said it about the serious trolling is from the political parties. The serious trolling is from their members, or younger members usually, are out of control, you know, Fine Gael councillors or young Fine Gael guys. I mean, it's usually these people, you know.
Yeah.
Be it on Labour, it's basically it's an extension of the university debate.
So, are we allowed to call this guy a top-ranking Fine Gael troll then?
The Barry Walsh guy.
Yeah.
I don't get. Yeah. Oh well. Neil, have you seen these tweets?
Yeah, I didn't know who he was beforehand, and I kind of had to double take to realize the position of power he was in. But it seems his comments that he made toward Tara Flynn caused the wider public awareness of it. Just absolutely disgusting. But as Vanessa said, this has gone on for such a long period of time, you know, and he's been treated under the disciplinary process. I mean, as far as I can see, he has to go. But what will they do? This will be a big test for Fine Gael now.
Well,
it is, given the amount of. I mean, if Francis Fitzgerald, who's former Minister for Justice, still in government, you've Kate. They were all about promoting women, and at the same time, they were kind of parking this complaint and not not even being open about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the whole story is some kind of distraction, but at least Kate O'Connell came forward and I mean, it's.
I think it's ultimately in the back of him calling her all sorts of names as well. But was it last week or the week before where Leo did this big thing about welcoming an expert into the gate, and he was delighted this was all being sorted. Sure, bring in their own expert and sort it out there, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose their deflection is the bullying within Sinn Féin, and they just deflect. They won't sort of acknowledge any of this kind of stuff. And I have to say that they're trying to legislate against trolls. You know, they're trying to.
I know.
sense of the net, but they're the trolls.
Come and get it.
They're the trolls. It's like.
This is what I'm asking. Is it proper now to say that this guy Barry is a top-ranking Fine Gael troll?
I don't know what rank he is in the Fine Gael Troll League, but he's
national executive.
Yeah, well, I mean his title, but I mean, how could it? You know, I was saying we got trolled this week really badly, like just you know, that kind of insane hungover Monday morning, you know, rage went on for the last 3-4 days.
Is that bad at Mimi's again?
No. I really do believe it's a concerted effort, because it's like they've taken the gloves off. You know, Leo's come out, Damien English, Walsh.
Actually, we need to be careful, because we could be bringing the country into disrepute by talking about a Fine Gael bully. So be careful now, John. We might be bringing Ireland's reputation might be brought into disrepute.
Well, I mean,
we lost the bid because of our reputation.
Yeah,
but it's like, and
this man is resorted to bullying women because of calling them the C word because of Ireland's reputation.
Vanessa, just 1 second, and the Eileen Gleeson's comments regarding bad behaviour leading to homelessness.
Yeah.
So something strange has occurred this week, isn't it, Johnny?
To remove John, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, they mean nothing to me. That kind of stuff. Just like your man, there's 2 bars there in Dáil Éireann. I guarantee you, Ruth Coppinger or Catherine Connolly aren't holding it up. It's pathetic. Where's that guy from? That Fine Gaeler that using those?
Dublin Bay North. Well, obviously Dublin North side. He's a North sider.
Okay, well, that, you know, just to have a location, that's all. No, they're all the same. Systematically, those parties, they're terrible. The quicker we get them out, and actually, in fact, I think if you ignore them, they might go quicker, because these kind of giving them leverage. I know that's our job, and they're all part of the news. But Leo Varadkar and his sidekick Murphy, you know, in relation to what they were trying to do with the housing or the homeless statistics to try and pair them off against the rest of the world was just probably the most pathetic thing they've done since they've come into government. So I think, you know, everything is a distraction. Look at what the shit that we're meant to read there last week. The three boys heading off to the independents heading off to break our peace in North Korea. Like, okay, it might be a little bit funny, but there's an element of seriousness there. Someone has to broker peace. Why not Ireland, the most neutral country in the world? Definitely.
Well, we have history of brokering peace.
Exactly. You know? So what I would have done, I would have sent the boys over, the three independents, Lord Ross, Colligan, and whoever else. I would have had them collecting, carrying the cases for Enda Kenny, Bertie Ahern, and Brian Cowan. Now, we already know that Enda Kenny or Bertie Ahern has actually brokered peace on the island. And look, you might know this, but I think the guys in South Africa were looking at these guys who brokered peace in Ireland to go over to South Africa. And guys from South Africa came over and helped the peace process as well. So when you take into consideration that the likes of Bertie Ahern, Brian Cowan, and Enda Kenny are sitting with big fat pensions and have 24-hour Garda Síochána surveillance or security, whatever you want to look at, maybe they should head off to North Korea. Maybe they should go to North Korea and broker that deal.
Okay.
Broker that peace.
Thanks.
What would that deal be? What deal are they looking to get? Would they be looking to get in North Korea?
Okay.
Do you think about that? Neil, I wanted to just ask you about the kind of the framing of the homeless thing this week. Basically, like from Eileen Gleeson, from Damien English, from Leo Varadkar, as it's a sort of almost have become a moral issue. You know, that we're not getting the full picture. That it's not just people sleeping on the streets. That we need a coordinated effort, and people handing out sleeping bags are no good, or they're making the situation worse. The language has really stepped up, and Tony Gross said it was the normalization of abnormality. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And on the radio tonight, I don't want to mention names in case I'm misquoting, but there was two political people on either Matt Cooper or News Talk, and one of them was suggesting a ban on making it illegal to sleep on the streets as a suggestion of how we deal with homelessness. Homeless people don't vote, and really it's up to the will of the public to make it to make this a voting issue. You know, it's hard to, you know, when you have Leo's comments this week about, I don't know what the figure was, but the average price of cost of a house is what, 200 and something thousand, which Leo said was a reasonable amount or an acceptable amount or whatever it was. You know, when you have the leader of your nation saying that on one hand, yet we have this massive homelessness crisis, there's still a massive disconnect between with reality and what needs to be done. It's, I don't know, we're still a long way for it being resolved.
But I'm saying across the board, there seems to be a toughening up of the language. You know, you've got the Hibernian Forum coming out this week, Leo Varadkar, Damien English. It seems like it's almost a concerted effort to ratchet it up, basically, and just say, look, there's 70 or so charities dealing with this. There's not, you know, I mean, get used to it almost is basically what they're.
Well, money talks and bullshit walks. Like, it's action we need, and 70 charities clearly isn't enough to deal with the issue.
I think there's less than 70 on it. Just go on.
Either way, I saw that as well about asking members of members of the public who are handing out sandwiches and sleeping bags. There was a suggestion that they're adding to the problem. They're encouraging people to stay on the streets. It's absolute nonsense. But yeah, we need to see action. We should be making this a voting issue.
Yeah, Vanessa, do you think the language is?
I tell you, I thought the language was it was too general. It was generalizing in a very crass, impatient way.
But it's deliberately so.
Yeah, and it was almost like she was just fed up with dealing with this all for the last so many years, and she was just getting fed up, and it was, you know, yeah, it was. I thought it was quite crass. Whether she's right or wrong, I am not going to say either way, but I do remember landing.
Johnny, I think your laptop's taken off again.
My laptop.
But
Sorry.
I remember last year, John, during the Apollo house occupation, Peter McVerry was. Are we okay? Yeah, Peter McVerry was saying that they had beds, that there was no, you know what I mean. He was saying that they had beds, and Simon Coveney, who's Minister for Housing, was saying that they've got there's actually a surplus of beds in the city at the moment. So I'm not going to say the lady was wrong or right, or because they did suggest that there was some conflict of information last year with the Apollo House activity. So, but I do think her language was, I say, crass and vulgar, and it's very typical of a mindset of these senior civil servants that they've just got the worst gig. They want equality, and they want, you know, a different department or something than having to deal with housing or homelessness or.
Yes.
Telly, did they not have a song on the Late Late? Was it last year or the year before last? Members of the Dáil.
Who?
Members of the Dáil, they had a song on the Late Late Show for charity.
Oh,
Yeah. Remember that, no? I look at too much at the Late Late Show. It's ridiculous. It's not good for my health. But I just thought that was typical. I know other politicians went off and slept out for a night. They do all this kind of things sporadically, but very much organised. And I think they're planning to release 200 beds, but they're just going to wait till the shit hits the fan and then say, "Oh, we have 200 beds." That's not the point. The point is that they're ignoring the real issue, and the problem is getting worse, and they're doing nothing about it. They're pathetic, and they should fall on this sword. They should fall on this sword, and that should be it. Call it an election.
Do you know? You know that?
Sorry,
Vanessa. Sorry, I was just going to say. Do you know there's only one country in Europe that is considered to have successfully tackled homelessness? Does anyone know which country it is?
Sweden, I'd say.
Denmark.
You're pretty close. Yeah, it's Finland. Do you know how they did it?
Yeah.
It's not a trick question.
No, it's vodka.
No, they gave everyone a free house.
They gave everyone a free house. Yeah. Like that. That's the solution.
But then does that go down like to -40?
Yeah, it does. Like there is a reason that there is no homeless people, but they are actually quite homeless. I only heard this the other night from a guy who lived in Finland.
Yeah.
Vodka is a massive thing, and in relation to hooch, there'd be bad batches goes around every so often, and it could take out up to 100 people because of bad alcohol. So. Yeah. But yeah, no. Finland, exactly. No, but Neil's right. Finland's a lot bigger landmass than Ireland, but it's the same population. So the problems aren't dissimilar in relation to that. They've just proven it. Those Nordic countries, they have a hang on it. You pay the high tax, you get it back. Everyone's looked out for. This is a two-tier country, and it's pathetic. If it was Britain or a colonial power, I could understand. But we're worse than America, the way we treat our own. It's terrible. Pathetic.
Actually,
we're going to go back
I apologise.
Huh?
Can I apologise there? I shouldn't have said they got a free house. A house was made available to them. That sounds a very vindicated thing to say. They gave them away free houses. Sorry, I shouldn't. The people were just put into houses, and that's how they sounded.
Somebody's mic is beside their laptop fans.
Lucky can move. Yeah, Lucky. Hello. If that's on your phone, it's a much better reception than the computer.
Yeah, that's the phone. Yes.
It's excellent. It's much better. It's actually better than all of our
yeah,
highly expensive camera work. Lucky, Saturday is a big day for the direct provision. Lucky, is with NASA, which is the movement of asylum seekers in Ireland. Johnny, would it be possible? Okay. Johnny, I think you're doing something on your laptop.
Somebody's mic on their laptop's close to the fan.
Oh, great. Sorry, Lucky. There's a demonstration on Saturday, meeting at the Garden of Remembrance at 2 p.m. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes, we have a big demonstration this Saturday on the end direct provision. It's in line with everything that you guys have been talking about here. Nearly, we are talking about housing being made a voting issue. So is direct provision. It needs to be made a voting issue. We will be calling for one of our demands is the right to work with no restrictions and with no limitations to the jobs that must be accessible to the asylum seekers. And the minister must not talk about 9 months. We want people to be able to be employed as soon as they come in this country and being trained, so that they start contribute towards, the better growth of the country. We wouldn't be in this.
Yeah, there's a 9-month delay in people in direct provision. There's a 9-month delay before they can start work now, isn't there?
That's right. That's right. The longer people stay in direct provision, the more expensive it will be, as it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt by the highest court in the land that the direct provision has been unlawful in terms of being barring people from working for 17 years. So they have been operating this system unconstitutionally. And if it were that people were working at from then, I mean, people's lives would have been better. The country would have, contributed. I mean, have grown. And maybe this crisis that we see, it wouldn't be. We know this. I mean, the government. There are many things that we see in terms of the monies that are being spent or monies that would have been channeled in this homelessness that we see.
Yeah, to run a direct provision center, the expenses.
It's in millions. It's well documented. It's in millions.
Yeah, it's a huge.
The center owners are the ones that are benefiting from the millions that the government pays, and the asylum seekers only get now to 2150 or 2160 a month. I mean a week, and millions keep pouring to the owners.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that is happening in direct provision. The same thing that is happening with the homelessness and the housing issue in this country. So on Saturday we want really it to be the biggest and direct provision rally yet.
Great.
And promising to be like that.
Yeah. Lucky, can I say you look very well? You look great. The last time we spoke, I think the last couple of times we spoke, you were under a lot of pressure. You were under a lot of stress. Did you sort out your housing situation?
No. I'm still in that situation. In the lack of housing in the city and the surrounding counties is a problem.
Yeah.
I'm still in the same place where I last spoke with you guys, and I'm still looking, and I'm still getting rejected in terms of because of the HUB, the housing assistance payment. The lender, because now we're competing with the private renting sector, and we don't compete because we are on HUB.
Yeah,
it is. But I try to lift my head up and do other things that needs to be done socially, and you know.
Were you watching the football the other night?
Football, I didn't watch.
No.
I didn't watch the football because I was also committed on other pending issues close to the people. But I was watching this. I saw the scores.
Yeah.
But I was not surprised. I was not surprised that Johnny. I was not surprised. My heart was always saying, wanting Ireland to win, but the head knew that it's gonna be.
That's always the way. But even after the first goal, did you think? No, you weren't watching. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. When I listened to the commentary when I came back home, and I could just, I mean, Ireland didn't lose this qualification on that day.
No,
they lost it when they were playing. I think there were teams like Montenegro or something.
yeah,
That the teams that they were supposed to win at home, they ended up drawing.
Yeah,
There are about two games during the no pressure games.
yeah,
They did not play football. They were boring.
yeah.
Those are the 6 points that they would have. They wouldn't be in this because we know Ireland does not do well in the playoffs. Ask Trapattoni,
Yeah.
right? And it was gonna be the indication of the first leg, the draw and the negative approach in the first leg would have indicated that we were sitting on the rope, waiting for Ericsson to push us on the other side.
Brilliant analysis.
Fantastic analysis. Look, you should be with the RT Sport there for the World Cup, maybe.
Yeah, I could take over Dunphy's spot.
Why would Lucky want to bore himself by commentating on Irish games?
Lucky, I want to ask you about the Aramark.
Aramark. Yeah.
Students
yes, I was at the launch last night in Trinity.
Yeah.
They are revisiting their.
Lucky, can I just explain what it is? A group of Trinity students. They've started a campaign to boycott the Aramark company, which is the college-appointed food caterer for Westland Leeds in the Hamilton building. Due to its connection to direct provision centres. They supply catering to all your centres, is that right?
The Aramark caters for not all the centres. Could be about 5 centres.
Newbridge,
I think.
Newbridge.
There's Newbridge. There's Knocklashing in Limerick.
Yeah.
There is Mill Street. There is Kinsale Road in Cork. There's another one. Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple. There's Athlone in. Athlone, yes.
That's a big centre. So they supply the catering, and they also supply the catering to the Hamilton building or the part of Trinity College. So students are boycotting them, and they've also they were denied a freedom of information request for the value of the contract between because you Lucky and other direct provision people have complained about the food for the last 10 years. Well, since
yes, you can call. In fact, this today marked the third year. I mean, the third anniversary of the public meeting that we held in Cork. After the protest that we had at that time, and food was part of that protest. and every center up to now, the food is a major complaint from by the residents as being substandard, as sometimes expired. You know, it's always been like that, and yet Aramak keeps pumping the millions of profits every month and every year. And
we don't know much. I mean, it could be. I mean, did you get any? Have you got any figures yearly sort of accounts?
No, I don't have the figures offhand.
Do you believe that the food that they are delivering is not up to scratch still? I mean,
it's deliberate. It's deliberate. You know, I'll give you an example which every person who is in the center will know. Whenever the management of that center know that there will be a visitor, maybe coming from justice or coming from a UN or wherever, any visitor that comes to the center, you will see that day that the food will be different. The food that would have been cooked on that day will be appetizing.
Yeah.
Do you know who used to do stuff like that? Sorry, Lucky, but the nuns in Island Bridge and around that used to have children in their care, whenever there was inspection from the Department of Health or the local Vincent de Paul or something like that, they'd have all the kids in good clothes and them sitting at lovely dinner tables and stuff like that, and then it would all be put away and the kids would be put back into the rags and battered. So there's a similar story here.
Is there also a connection between a supplier, not the same one, but a supplier of materials to American prisons and direct provision?
Yes, Aramak are running prisons in America.
It's the same company, yeah?
It's the same company, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
It's the same company.
So that's basically saying that people in direct provision are treated the same as American prisoners.
It's the same. It's the same, Johnny. It's the same. You know, talking about food, Vanessa, you know, I remember clearly the center where I was in Cork. They would even go to an extent of setting the tables, something that we never see for a long time. Setting the table, putting cloths and putting fancy-looking serviettes, and you know, and you just wonder what's the story? What's the story today? Then you know that
it absolutely does echo of stories that I've heard, you know, or we've seen in archive footage of, you know, when in these orphanages that the nuns used to keep, that when it does sound very similar story, that there's a big big game around window dressing when the inspectors come around. The kigger, that's Irish for inspector, Lucky. When the kigger is a skull.
Well, so tell me about Saturday then. It starts at 2 p.m.
It starts at 2. We encourage people to come early from 1 o'clock to start gathering, because it's gonna be packed. We want to start immediately at 2 o'clock so that before it gets too cold, people can go home, because we've got people that are coming from all over the country, and we want people to be able to go back safe home. We know our weather, how it is, you know, so we don't want people to be freezing. So the sooner we start, the sooner we'll finish.
Great. And will there be speeches there, or will you be speaking, Lucky?
Yeah, there will be a lot of speakers there from the direct provision and from the supporters. I will be speaking as well. It's important that we articulate what we want people to know and what our message must be to the government directly, because we want to send a clear message to them about many things that they seem to take us for granted for many years. They changed the ministers, but you know, the theater is just the same. The players, they just keep changing the players. The theater is the same.
Yeah.
So, but we want to send that message in a very clear way.
Well, let's say this again. Then it's 2 p.m. on Saturday at the Garden of Remembrance, and the march ends where, Lucky?
Yeah. It's
goes to Leinster House.
It's Panel Square. It's just Panel Square. For people that don't know where the Garden of Remembrance is,
Panel Square.
Panel Square, and it's gonna march through O'Connell Street up down to Dame Street, and then we'll just gather there for a while and then disperse from there.
Okay. Well, that's 2 p.m. Lucky, thanks a lot for joining us. Sorry to have got you to use your phone and everything.
Yeah. By the way, Johnny, next time you're going to Aviva Stadium, please, it doesn't matter what's playing there. I wanted to go to the rugby game which you won by a mile on Saturday, but I didn't have a ticket. But next time, think about me. I want to go.
Lucky. Yeah, no worries, Lucky. I've got you in mind. And we need to talk about the date for. I was actually talking to the guys in Ballykeefe. You remember the gig we cancelled?
Yeah.
We're looking at May, so I should have a date on that soon enough, and we might be able to organise a football tournament around it. You know. Because as you know, as we talked about before with Bob Marley, the two cornerstones of any civilization, music and football.
Right.
So you're never too far away from my thoughts, Loki, when it comes to music and football. So I'm thinking about you a lot. We're going to get stuff done, brother, big time. And I'll see you Saturday anyway. See you Saturday.
Lucky, I'll expect you to provide football analysis on the broadsheet now. From thanks a lot, Lucky. Thanks a lot for joining.
Good luck on Saturday.
See you Saturday.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Night. Okay. Neil.
Yeah.
Will you be going on Saturday to the rally?
Not as much as I'd like to. Unfortunately, not for obvious reasons.
I think I do get a feeling that the direct provision cause is getting much more.
Yeah.
Groundswell support. Like just.
Yeah.
I suppose a bit. Like in terms of it's beyond sort of even the immigration debate now, isn't it? Within Ireland, or maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. No, you're right, John. You're right. There's a lot of
I think there's a lot more people now realizing there's a lot worse going on in between what's going on in Leinster House and housing and all this. This is the very least we need to be supporting. This is people are looking for I wouldn't like to say protest, but something that they can support, something they can recognize, and they've the whole structured society at the moment is some people are getting more and more well off, and those that are on the lower incomes are finding it harder and harder, and that number is getting bigger and bigger. And I find that those people are looking more and more for campaigns that they can recognise and identify with, and this would be very similar one. I think that I do think it. I'm not saying it's going to be the water protests all over again, but there's definitely there's a lot more positive attitude towards, I think, supporting the people in direct provision. I do.
Yeah.
There's information there. When I found out during the week that the same company are associated with prisons in America, and we know what prisons in America do. Basically, that's slave labor. You don't have to look at the 13th film called The 13th to realize that. slavery might have been abolished, but they actually have set up prisons. Prisons are big business in America. So to have one supplier of those prisons in America that is also supplying direct provision, it's a no-brainer. You boycott these corporate companies who are basically breaking the law. But it's their own law, so they're allowed to break away. But the thing is, information is knowledge, knowledge is power, power to the peaceful. That's my mantra. Peaceful people are reasonable people. So you just keep, and the protest on Saturday, you got to go out and walk if you can, because that makes a difference. And it also garners camaraderie in relation to, okay, it's not like, you know, the homeless thing, we have to look after ourselves. These guys, it's all about the same thing. It's all about the poor being trodden on, and just need to just realize that we have the power and we can articulate ourselves in a peaceful way. I've been saying that most weeks that I've been on. I continue to say it because that is the only way this government are going to listen. We just keep protesting and keep letting them know that we know. You can tell the RT that give them your agenda, but we know the other agenda. Places like Broadsheet, other places that I won't mention. But you know, the word is getting out. It's strong, man.
Why won't you mention it, John?
I won't mention other media companies, John.
Why not?
That's just like, you know, just like me and Spurs. I'm just a one media company's supporter. Who else is there? Let me see. Channel 4 are good. That's it. There's no other Irish media company telling it the way it is. I don't know.
Neil?
Is there? Are you looking for brownie points there, John?
Modesty forbids, but Neil?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're seeing a lot more coverage across the board, Johnny. Not to the same extent that Broadsheet is covering, but I think we're seeing it in the main papers and that, and on the news. Like, it's definitely gathering traction. I just hope we don't get a trade-off between the push for resolution to the homeless crisis. You know, that there's a trade-off there, but you know, I think we're getting fair coverage, an increase in coverage anyway.
Well, Neil, just on the homeless issue and RTE, I mean, there's something wrong in RTE. There's something up. I mean, their coverage on Eileen Gleeson's remarks, they sort of subverted what was said. They changed the entire tone of. They took the sting out of it, basically, when it wasn't really their job to take the sting out of it, just to report what was happening. Do you know? On
whose remarks did you say?
Eileen Gleeson, she was the director of the homeless executive on Dublin City Council. And she was the one who said about the bad behaviour, that years of bad behaviour.
So yeah, I mean, who makes that call? Who makes that decision? Is this political influence?
I just think it's all public servants sticking together. I wonder, are they all members of the same union? SIP2, Impact, or whatever.
Why do you think there's a union line that they're towing?
Well, you know, it's a culture. They're fundamentally they're all public servants. You know, she's a long-term public servant, and she's obviously started off and gone from one department to another, to another, to another. She had this whole jaded look about her anyway. Now, that's not meant to be a personal remark, but
it is a bit, Vanessa. But you know, I see what you mean, though.
But
she was personal about them, I guess. So she was personal about the homeless. It seemed like.
No, Vanessa's right. Most of these bureaucrats that's in those positions are middle-aged, 50, 60, more pushing 60. So where's the young blood coming through these departments?
There's a very fed-up tone about these people who've been doing this for a long time, within the public sector. Not so much those that would be sort of in the voluntary sector.
They're removed. All of them are removed from society, especially the top civil servants in this country have no idea what is actually going on.
Sorry,
but isn't that the thing, though, with an issue like homelessness and direct provision, that, you know, even for the likes of ourselves, you know, we see homeless people in the street, but you don't get to be in the shoes of someone who's homeless or someone who's in direct provision. And the tropes and the stereotypes and the image, you know, I imagine a lot of people have that image in their head that, all people who are homeless have problems with drugs, and drugs is what makes people homeless. Attitudes are changing with regards to homelessness around that. But we're a panel of people who like to think we're in tune with what's going on in the country. But even at that, I certainly haven't walked in the shoes of someone who's homeless or spent time there. So I rely on the information that's pushed in the media. But not everyone's going to be the same as us.
Well, this lady is the director of the homeless regional.
The regional,
yeah. And her lack of humanity on the show on Today with Sean O'Rourke. It was funny because the Times had written the story and it said about bad behaviour, and I thought when they had her on the radio that she'd backtrack and say that I've been misquoted, but she actually just sort of doubled down on it. And, the lack of humanity is stunning.
Yeah, but John, like, these people represent a large proportion of the voting public, of the citizens, the electors, and an awful lot of people do look down their nose at the homeless in this country, and they want to put them in the box. It's your own fault if you had worked hard. You're in the gutter because you decided to take drugs. No mention of the systematic raping that the Catholic Church went on for generations. That would obviously affect people directly, to put them leaving the homeless and suicidal, all that kind of stuff that's never really discussed really in an open forum or a serious political discussion, which should be had. Is that not essentially what RT is for? Have real discussions and real answers and real testimonies. They're just going around in circles the whole time. The issues are big, so if you concentrate on the big issues and solve the biggest issue of all, and you will solve a lot of other issues that are affected by that. So they're all the reason for being homeless is not going to affect. And let's not forget about the banks. They should be mentioned every week on this. They're still at it. I think there's over 200 evictions in Kilkenny alone, and that's a month before Christmas. So what's going to be like next month? These guys
Johnny, I'll have to pull you in there. Where they're saying there's 200 evictions, where are you getting that number from?
All the banks that have put through the court.
Yeah, but should there be 3-4 years? I mean, they could easily get 10 adjournments before there's a possession order signed.
What I'm saying is the banks are consistently bringing mortgage holders, home dwellers through the courts to evict them. Okay.
Well, no, they look for the payment of the arrears, and if that's what the process is, and then if they don't get that, then they seek a possession order for their secured lending. But it's not quite as 200 before Christmas. I'd be very surprised if there's 10 possession orders signed between now and Christmas.
Kilkenny alone.
It was just a polemic, I think.
No, these are all over the country. If you go down to any courthouse there, all over the country, and see how many eviction orders are up for during the course of a Friday morning or a Thursday morning, whichever these are. I think it's every 2 weeks.
Well, Vanessa's
I think Kilkenny's every 2 weeks.
Vanessa, you want more evictions because you want the thing moved on, don't you?
No, I wouldn't be a fan of that. But I think if it's inevitable, they should sign the possession order, because then at least the families could go on the housing list, or the owner. I mean, I don't want you to put it out there that I want eviction order or possession order signed.
Oh, no, I thought that's what you've written about that. I mean, in the sense that.
Hang on. If a mortgage is unsustainable and it's being pursued, and the family have already moved on, or the couple that were in the house split up, he's there, she's moved on, or the property is empty, and it's going on for 3, 4, 5 years through various. It's very hard to repossess a family home in Ireland, Johnny. Very hard, and it would if there was a more accurate.
You sound bitter.
Try telling that to the people that are thinking they're going to be evicted there.
Well, now, Johnny, listen, Johnny, you can shout over me if you like.
Shout over you, Vanessa.
The problem with the process is that what a family what they can expect in the Kilkenny County Registrar's Court and what a Dublin family will get in the Dublin County Registrar's Court is very different. There is no systematic pattern to how they make the decisions. Okay? So that's one thing. And a county registrar in one county will view these cases very different. Some of them will be more tolerant and will give them more time, will give them adjournments of a year, will allow them go and meet, or they are automatically entitled to an adjournment anyway to see a PIP. And further to that, then it might adjourn it again. But some county registrars say, "Oh, you're paying £10 a month. Sure, that's grand.
Yeah.
Back to me in 6 months and see how you sort."
Well, my point was, Vanessa, was what the banks would like to do with the evicting. No. Well,
they're obliged to pursue the debt because of the central bank mark process.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Listen, they were obliged to be respectful to the mortgage. The people who took on a mortgage, same way as the Irish people took up the debt of all these banks. So there was goodwill shown by the Irish taxpayer to these banks because we were threatened, basically. But the same goodwill hasn't been put on to the people.
Okay, you're saying that the banks are being mean to these people that they're seeking possession orders from. First of all, once legal proceedings have started, the banks are out of it. It's with the lawyers.
Yeah, right. Okay, the point I made
is that a few more evictions. That's all. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Yeah, knock it off, because that's not what I said.
Well, okay, I was kind of joking. I really was. You don't want to see evictions. I know that. It was more of a systematic thing that you like.
But it does go back to trackers, though. It does all go back to trackers because trackers allow people to borrow. Excuse me? It does ultimately go back. You look at all the people on the list. You're saying there's 200 on the list between now and Christmas in Kilkenny. Well, it does go back to trackers because they do have a role to play, because trackers allowed people borrow way more money than they could actually afford, or that they were qualified under central bank rules to borrow, because it was cheaper. Somebody in 50 grand a year could borrow $500,000. In actual fact, they should have only been borrowing 200,000. And when those mortgages became into arrears, that's when they lost their tracker, and that's when it got out of hand, and that's when properties got, because suddenly they were only owing $500,000 and they actually could only afford 200,000. So trackers had a lot to do with that, and trackers are principally behind the massive drive up in prices in the Celtic Tiger.
Okay, and no evictions, no more.
Very few. Telly, there's very few evictions. Very few.
Okay.
If you look at all the people up on the list, say next Monday, and go and ring around all the courts, and I'd say less than 5% were signed.
But that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic.
Dublin would be the busiest. She'd sign a lot. That's it.
Right, Neil.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like like banks are businesses, unfortunately, so they don't have to worry about the aftermath of the repossession, and it just highlights that disconnect and the link between homelessness. Like, when a property is repossessed, the bank is done from their perspective with the mortgage holder, and then it's up to Neil.
Well, they have to get the execution order. I could tell you, there's a vulture fund. Not a vulture fund, a subprime got a possession order in 2011, and they still haven't executed it.
But the legal people take over. The legal people take over at that point, or have taken over at that point. But in terms then of,
it wasn't worth anything, so they just let it sit there. Let your man look after it.
We've also had an historical reluctance to evict people. I mean, rightly so.
Oh, the family home has enormous protection.
And rightly so.
Yeah, nobody's arguing that.
Okay, good.
But I think if the property is empty, or the couple have moved on, or the original owners of the mortgage have moved on, and it's just sitting there, or it's tenanted out, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be. Because what you're doing, like, this is one of the reasons there's a shortage of housing stock. because they're tied up in litigation.
Vanessa, have you come across?
I see. Yeah, and that was the reason why you wanted the process just to move it on quicker. I didn't mean that you wanted people on the streets. You know.
Have you come across this scenario, Vanessa, often where people just leave the keys in through the letterbox and they're gone?
The amount of people that have been trying to give their properties back to banks is significant, yeah. And the banks just say, "Oh, no, we have to go through this process."
Yeah, but
Could be the lawyers egging them on as well to get the fees.
In America, they throw the keys in the
Yeah, it's not.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
look
it.
at all these people that went to Canada and Australia. They weren't all just graduates. A lot of people, those people had settled down in good faith and believed that they would have had a job and a career and a pension for life. You know, and this crash came, and then there was no people I know have went through this process, and there's no negotiating with the banks. And that was directly after the bailout. They had forgotten. And the government are very slow to bring these banks into line. And to go back to where I started saying we should never forget about the banks, especially around this time. And if it's 2 or 3 evictions, the banks ultimately want to have their house back so they can sell it to whoever to make money, because that's essentially what they do. And all they want the government that are meant to be doing their job, looking after the people, just keep an eye on the banks. That's all I'm saying. Keep an eye on the banks, because they crawl their way out of anything.
Can I raise an unrelated but pertinent question at this point? John, can you explain to us all about the Christmas decorations in the background, please?
No. I'll tell you all about them at the end. But I just say at the top of the show that Neil, you're gonna go through. Vanessa, are you okay? Have we upset you? Are you upset?
No.
Okay. I hope I didn't upset you. I was only joking about the eviction thing. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought.
You want to explain the Christmas decorations?
Christmas decorations, because you see, you know,
Oh, yeah, Neil,
Santa's
sorry.
watching.
Neil was you were going to go through some TV and movie stuff and
Cool.
stuff out in the cinema.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
Now,
I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here.
Control yourself, Vanessa. Control yourself. Well, for those of us who have children or whatever and have to stay in, or the highlight of our month is the new release down in the local Blockbuster.
Oh, it's 3 weeks.
Well, now the world of cinema is not one without controversy, and I'm not talking about the Kevin Spacey issue. There's been a big issue with the former Savoy Cinema, or still known as Savoy Cinema in Dublin, the iconic screen number 1, which is being split up into 2 screens, much to the anger of cinema goers. And our leader of the free world in fighting the good fight is Rick O'Shea, who's been very vocal about keeping Screen 1 as Screen 1. But I hope that doesn't happen. I mean,
do you think it might
well,
first decision? It's such a it's a gorgeous room, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I've seen many a film in there, but they seem to think that 2 smaller screens is better for the public. But I think that would kill off. I mean, we have the Stella has reopened in Rathmines, which is this kind of boutique feeling cinema.
You get a bed.
You get a bed and a massage for 19 quid.
I end up falling asleep. I'd be there snoring.
Do you think 19 with like you get free popcorn and stuff, organic?
I don't think, but they have table service and there's cocktails and there's someone to rub your feet. Well, it will make up for the quality of shite movies we have to watch nowadays. But I haven't been there, but I'd love. I remember seeing E.T. there and some kid puking all over the place, and no one came in to clean it, and that was a very long time ago. So it'd be nice to see what's done. It looks great in the pictures. But we have a few new films coming out this week, so I thought it might be interesting to look at them. Now, Vanessa's very disappointed because there's no Dwayne Johnson movies this week. But there's. Do you need a moment to cope with that, Vanessa? She's a big Dwayne Johnson fan.
Where's my hat?
I'm just going to do the papers. I'll be back in 1 second, okay?
Come on, son.
You go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So we've a couple of movies going out. The big one for the week is Justice League, the DC Comics.
Who's in that?
That has Ben Affleck playing Batman, Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman and all that.
Anymore, are we?
No, we're not.
But he's boycotted, so is he? Has he been bowled?
He has. He's not top of the list, but he's on the list. It's another Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, the hack filmmaker. I don't know why DC keep hiring him. But the early reviews are indicating that it's good, but the early reviews are usually what a lot of the studios have been in a habit of doing is inviting the fanboys for early reviews to give reviews earlier than the critics, in the hope of drumming up support. So it's probably going to be rubbish, just like Man of Steel and just like every other DC film since Christopher Nolan hung up the Dark Knight reigns, the Batman reigns. But everyone's going to go see it, and it'll be terrible. And I can say I told you so.
Neil, do you know the ratings on IMDb? Are they driven by all these early reviewers giving free tickets to the theaters and stuff like that?
Not on IMDb, because you can go in for a film that's not out and give it a vote. With Rotten Tomatoes, it's kind of a cumulative score, aggregated score. So they look at critic reviews and then user reviews. But Hollywood tends to be fairly strict with giving out reviewers and critics early access to films, particularly if they know they've a dud. Sometimes they won't hold press screenings, and there's often gag orders as well on talking about films till the last minute, because it does have an impact.
But it's very hard to do that now with Twitter and Facebook and all this. I mean, stuff, reactions could be recorded into like literally 5-second videos and.
Well, it's a very powerful thing. I remember one screening. I think it was when I went to the Dark Knight screening, and they took our mobile phones, and that was in Savoy 1. So you couldn't bring your phones in, and that's a good few years ago. So I imagine it's even stricter now. But early reviews can make or break. I mean, the website Ain't It Cool News, which was a kind of a fanboy movie site, and they had their moles all over the film industry, and I can't remember what the film was now, but they're credited with they were the reason that the film flopped. The film was terrible. I think it was one of the Batman movies. It escapes me now. So, the movie industry is hypersensitive to it, and the margins on these films are quite tight.
Johnny Keenan as well. Who's your favourite Batman? Who's been your favourite?
Robin.
I'm going to go with Val Kilmer was mine. What about you?
Ian Nibbles. That's Michael Keaton. That's Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, yeah.
Michael Keaton, it is because he was suitably weird enough. Ben Affleck is just like whatever.
I don't like the whole concept of Batman.
He
always tackles street crime. He never goes after the white collar one.
Who was?
That was Batman. He always goes after the street crime.
Do you know what movie you need to watch, Johnny? Assault on Wall Street.
I think I've seen it.
Brilliant film.
I went to Wall Street and I hit the bull, I kick in the ball. Everyone wanted to get their picture taken with the bull, and I was around the back kicking him in the ball. A great picture of
it. Johnny, have you seen that film? Christian Bale coincidentally is in it. It's the true story of the collapse, of the financial collapse. Is The Big Sleep or something like that? Have you seen that?
Big Short.
Yeah, that was some.
Big Shark.
Big Shark. That's it.
What's it called? Big Shark.
The Big Short.
I saw the Big Short. Oh,
can you get him on, John?
Oh, is that the guy who's the doctor? Who's?
Yeah.
No.
He's on the spectrum or something. Is he? Is that the?
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah, that's a good movie. Wolf of Wall Street is a great movie.
Okay, Neil, any more movie TV?
Yeah, there's a couple other ones coming out this weekend. There is a film that I know very little about, Ingrid Goes West, which is kind of some sort of comedy about Aubrey Plaza plays the lead in it. She's a social media addict and goes off in search of a meaningful relationship. Doesn't get a particularly... Oh, no, it does get a particularly high score on Rotten Tomatoes, but the director, I think, is an unknown. And another film is the film stars don't die in Liverpool, and this is based on Peter Turner's memoir about... He was an actor from Liverpool and had a relationship with Hollywood star Gloria Graham back many decades ago, and their affair turned into a relationship. So she was an Oscar-winning actress, and this would be one to go see. It's fairly highly rated. It's got Annette Bening and everyone's favorite Belle, Jamie, and Vanessa Redgrave in it. So that will be one to watch. If you don't want to watch Batman against the blue screen, go see that.
Listen, my movies, I just want there to be loads of killing and nonsense and special effects and blood and naked bodies and fellas boxing the head off each other with tattoos, and I want just total cheesecake. I don't want a movie that I have to talk about afterwards.
Well, now you know, are you a Sylvester Stallone fan, Vanessa? You see, he's in the news today. There's allegations
what
against
did he
him.
do? Oh, jeez, it's not him as well.
Yeah.
Is there anything about Dwayne? Don't tell me.
Dwayne, now he's got a massive movie coming out next year, based on a video game called Rampage, and he's continuing that streak of doing cheesy films to show off his muscles. I'm sure it'll be terrible.
Do you see him doing Can you do that? You know, the nipple.
There's no need for that, Neil. Any more TV or movies?
I couldn't see what movies are on TV. Did anyone else see what's on TV this year? So I don't know what's on the telly box.
I'm a Celebrity Gets Me Out. Get Me Out of Here is starting, and Dennis O'Brien's going into the jungle.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But can I just go back briefly, just to the the narrative of the homeless being whatever, and we're the RTE changing the narrative basically, which was a incendiary comment from the director of the homeless. RTE then downplaying it. Do you have any views on that at all? No.
Distraction.
Well, it's their thing. They're picking and choosing what news to report. If it was
No, it's just
somebody,
the way.
Do you know what? On Saturday at Lucky's Brett Mart, right? Imagine if somebody said something like that, it would be picked up by RT and reported. You know? It would be reported. Whereas when it's a sort of the established, civil service, public sector, they're not provoked, they're not questioned, they're not investigated until they absolutely have no other choice.
Yeah.
But you can be sure if Lucky said something like that about people here, Jesus, he'd be hounded within 24 hours.
Oh, completely. Yeah, I just found the whole thing very, very strange. The coverage of it. If it's as simple as that.
The other thing is, John, I don't think they know how to handle it anyway. I don't think they know how to report what's going on, because there's all different numbers, homeless, sleeping on the streets, who's in accommodation, ages, family profile. There's so many different sets of records and statistics and numbers. Nobody actually knows for sure how many are on the streets.
Yeah, well, I feel Miss Gleason got it off lightly. Their comments. Johnny, I think you did something. I think I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something with your mouse.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think Johnny, the laptop. I think your mic, whatever way it's built, the mic is close to the fan. So when the fans spin, we hear UFOs taking off.
Is that what it is?
Really?
Yeah.
So it's obviously coming from here because I can't hear it.
No, you can't hear it.
Yeah.
We can hear it.
Right.
But we can hear it.
So if you when you're not talking, if you go mute, welcome to Broadsheet Technical Support. Email us your queries.
Thank you, Neil.
Johnny, you should put in for an upgrade. You should put into the boss there and apply for an upgrade.
Yeah, Neil, any more TV? So the two movies then is the Daddy's Home 2?
No, I think was that on out already? No, I don't think that's this weekend. The Justice League is the big one, the Ben Affleck and the Zack Snyder nonsense in the DC universe.
Did anyone go to see the Kingsman 2?
Not yet.
Vanessa, we're trying to discuss new releases, please.
Mr. Darcy's in Kingsmen too. It's important. It's important stuff for your viewers, John.
I just noticed that John is still deflecting from the Christmas lights question that we've been asking.
Oh, I will. I'll get to that in a second. So let us just recap, Neil, because this is going to be a regular item, and you've got to be a bit more. You've got to be a bit more Dave Fanning about it.
Oh, right.
I'm far too opinionated.
Come on.
You have to be a bit more high energy, Neil. Really.
I'm very high energy.
So just to recap, then, Neil, the movies.
So
just go back and sit in the armchair there, like Barry Norman.
So the big one, Justice League. Everyone's going to go see the Justice League, and it's going to be shite because it's Zack Snyder, and DC are badly in need of a success in their expanded universe. There's Ingrid Goes West, which is the Aubrey Plaza girl, is a social media addict, needs to go finding meaningful relationships, and goes off on her trek. And the one that I think is the movie of the week is The Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, which is based on Peter Turner's memoir about his affair and relationship with a Hollywood icon.
Okay. Brilliant.
Go on. Who do you have an affair with?
Vanessa, please. You have to watch the movie. Spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Right, who's in it then? Who's in it?
Neil.
Jamie Bell, Vanessa Redgrave.
Oh, yeah, you said that. Yeah. All right.
And Annette Bening.
So, Neil,
I like Annette Bening, yeah.
Neil, would you anything on Netflix?
Stranger Things 2 is kind of hot on Netflix now.
I've one episode to watch.
I've one episode left as well.
Yeah,
It was a bit of a sleeper hit the first season. It was very entertaining.
I loved it because it was so 80s, and it was
the nostalgia strings.
It was lovely to see it. Yeah, and did you know? Well, sure everyone's watching it at the moment because it's on Netflix. So don't give out to me for a spoiler alert. But did you notice that they're using 80s stars? Do you know your man is in it now, Aston?
Well, there's been a lot of very subtle and clever nods to
the Goonies.
The Goonies, yeah, he made a reference to the Goonies and some of his dialogue. And then there was this episode 7 of season 2, or episode 6, where they were in the tunnel. Spoiler alert: they're in tunnels, and it was very reminiscent of Aliens. And of course, Paul Reiser was Mr. Burke in Aliens. He was the bad guy.
Yeah, and what was the show he was in with Helen Hunt in the 80s, 90s?
Oh, he wore one of those. Yeah, I know. I can't.
New York. Okay. All right. It was. Sorry, John.
No problem.
There is another popular series on Netflix at the moment, The Sinner. I haven't watched it yet, but it is proving very popular. Jessica Biel is in it, and what's that guy's name? Anyway, it's getting good reviews, and friends are saying Bill Pullman. That's who it is. So that's people are talking about that one at the moment. Yeah.
He was the
very nice guy.
Yeah. And are you concerned, Neil, about that Hollywood is just self-immolating with scandal and whatnot? Tonight, Sylvester Stallone, by the way, has been named as a...
He's denying it, but it's a very serious allegation because it involves a minor, and there's an alleged police report.
But remember Entourage, the TV show that became a movie? Do you remember the rule, Johnny Drama's rule to Turtle? Deny till you die.
Well, it's a kind of a it's all coming out now on the back of Weinstein, and
Hey.
Hi, Olga.
How's it going? Sorry, I'm later than usual.
Go on, say it, John. Say it. Why was she late?
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. Olga has just joined us because she was out quite a lengthy shift in town. Come on, Neil. It's just juvenile at this stage.
Never gets old. Never gets old.
There's a work shift, and then there's the other shift. We're not even talking about that.
Who says work shift nowadays?
Olga?
Anyway, so how's it going?
Great. I've actually just put up...
Hi, Olga.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going? Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to see you. What's the scandal?
What's the scandal? I'm not too sure. Sorry, John, did you say you put the papers up? I haven't.
But just put them in the media library, so they're there for.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, so.
Actually, I'll go. Perhaps you could just tell us the latest weirdness from the Morris McCabe saga.
Well, it's a bit of deja vu, because we talked about this in August actually, and it's the same issue really, but it's still as important. It kind of basically everyone now knows about this allegation that was made against Morris McCabe in 2006, and everyone knows now that the DPP's directions were unequivocally in his favour, and everybody knows that he went on to make certain complaints about the guards, and these were looked at numerous times by numerous people. But ultimately, there was the commission investigation in 2015 looked over by a judge, Kevin O'Higgins. So we know that there were claims made at that commission investigation at the outset. So basically, the legal counsel for the guard commissioner then, Noreen O'Sullivan, said that they were going to produce evidence to show that he was acting, because he was making complaints because he had a grudge. And the grudge, they were saying that he had a grudge was because they were going to say, or they said that he wanted the DPP's directions in relation to that 2006 allegation overturned. But they made that on the basis that they didn't realise that he was fully aware of the full instructions. So he told them on the 15th of May, when he gave evidence, he said, no, I'm fully aware, very satisfied, I've absolutely no reason to want them to be overturned. They said that, they also said that they were going to produce evidence that he said he had this grudge because of a meeting that he had with Superintendent Noel Cunningham and Gardaí Vaughan Martin in Mullingar in 2008. So it's just worth bearing in mind, like I said, there's been numerous kind of investigations into Morris and like meetings and all this, and that complaint was never made known in all those years, just by the by. But anyway, when they said that at the commission investigation on the Friday, May 15th, Morris McCabe's solicitor, barrister Michael McDougall, said, look, this is outrageous. I want to see, or we have to see documentation for this. What's the story? So basically, the following Monday, they came back after the weekend, and a 5-page letter was written by the Chief State Solicitor, Eileen Creedon, who's now a High Court judge. And in this, she said that she referred to this meeting, and it says in the statement, it says in the 5-page letter that Morris told them that he was making a complaint about a certain guard because he wanted these instructions to be made known to him in full.
Yeah.
And anyway, there was all this evidence. But the thing is that because Morris had the tape recording of the meeting, he was able to prove that this was untrue. So basically, those two things, the grudge, the reason for the grudge, and him saying he was acting, or them saying he was acting out of grudge, were both just dismissed because he was able to prove them to be untrue. But that's extremely worrying, obviously, because you have the state effectively, like a chief state solicitor. This wasn't Colin Smith, his legal counsel, or the legal counsel for the Garda Commissioner. This is the chief state solicitor, which is under the remit of the Attorney General, I think. So, you know, serious questions there. Because the tape recording directly contradicted what she had said in her letter. So where did she get her evidence? We don't know. Did she get it from Colin Smith? Did she get it from Noel Cunningham? Did she get it from Yvonne Martin? Who did she get it from? We have no idea. But that's what happened. So this week, Alan Kelly then from Labour was asking questions about this and saying he wanted to know when exactly Francis Fitzgerald knew about this strategy, because obviously if she knew about it, it's very worrying.
He seems to know something.
Yeah, I think so.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah. Go on. No, but absolutely. Yeah, and it's like he's just trying to almost like get people to say things on record and then come back to them with something. I don't know, but he's asking questions about when Francis Fitzgerald and when the Department of Justice knew about this legal strategy, because, you know, that would obviously have massive implications. And so it's interesting because Varadkar eventually came back and he said, look, I spoke to Francis Fitzgerald, she's away at the moment, she's not in Ireland. And he said she had absolutely no hand, act or part in, she had no prior knowledge and had no involvement in the creation of the strategy, but that she was told after the fact. Yeah. And then he said the Department of Justice was told after the cross-examination. And that's really wishy-washy, because what does that mean? And is that cross-examination of Morris McCabe? Because if that's the case, if it was a case that he's left it wide open there for the question, was that May 15th? Because Alan Kelly also claims that there was a phone call made from the Commissioner's office to the Department of Justice on May 15th. And so we don't know what's in that phone call. We don't know the contents of that phone call, but this is what Alan Kelly's been saying. And so if you think of it in timeline, Colin Rooney, a guard, went in and said he was asking for the directions to be overturned. Maurice McCabe said, no, that's not true. Then obviously Michael McDougall said, we need documentation of this evidence of this so-called meeting. And then on Monday, there's this 5-page letter from the chief state solicitor.
Yeah.
So,
And then in the middle of this, an hour after Varadkar said this in the Dáil, said about the no hand acted part, the Secretary General of the Department of Justice resigns.
Resigns, yeah.
His resignation.
Yeah, he said he announced his resignation, so he's going to quit in February because he's approaching 40 years of service. But when Varadkar was asked specifically about the Department of Justice, he said they couldn't find a record. They couldn't find a record of the Department of Justice not being aware of the strategy. That's very different to saying they didn't have any. And he kind of said, "Look, I can't." He couldn't. He also wasn't able to be definitive about this apparent phone call. So, and then he announced his resignation. So. But
it's odd. I mean, there seems to be some sort of media blackout on it. I don't mean to say this in an arrogant way, but we have been the only ones to report about the DPP's directions, like that being the basis for this so-called non-grudge, which I do find a bit weird, but whatever. But yeah.
But that it's so important because it kind of arcs all the way back to the Charlton, because that's the link between, like, the DPP's directions were such an integral part of the legal strategy in O'Higgins. And also at the Disclosures Tribunal, it's become really evident that the people who didn't know about the DPP's directions could obviously be easily swayed by about allegations about Maurice McCabe if they didn't,
Yeah.
And even Paul Williams, the journalist, the only person who wrote about Miss D, he said in the Disclosures Tribunal, if he had seen the directions, he would have possibly, that could be just, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. But also, I think, sorry now to go on, but I do think, I'm just conscious of time, but I do think that if the guards are serious about like transparency, I think that the transcript of the O'Higgins Commission is just going to have to be published.
Yeah.
And it will be published. Look, if they don't do it, someone's going to do it because people have it. And I can't think of anything that's more, of public interest than.
We'll print it.
Yeah.
Can I have it?
but I do think that that's where this is going to go, because, and okay, yes, the Charlton Disclosures Tribunal is going to be looking at it. We just have to kind of wait and see, and that's not going to come back now until January, we heard. So
January they reconvene. But I feel there's something very big behind this. I think maybe Varadkar was misled before he said what he said in the Dáil.
Possibly. And
then came out and said, okay, we've messed up here. The Secretary General then announces resignation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we need to know, the thing is that the cat's out of the bag about the O'Higgins Commission investigation. We know the strategy. We know that there was claims that what's going to be said turned out to be false. So we can't hide from this. That's just how it is. And so, Francis Fitzgerald got the report. So as we know, none of this was in the report, which is why it was such an explosive thing.
Yeah.
But when Francis Fitzgerald got the report in April, and then she published it in May, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, she went through a whole process of consultation with the DPP, the Attorney General, and Garda Síochána, GSOC.
Yeah.
She said this in her own statement after she printed it. So, well, what happened there? Was she told of any,
I think there's a lot more to this, but I feel that...
and the Attorney General, she consulted with, sorry.
Yeah. No, I feel there's something so big here. Vanessa, have you been keeping an eye on this story?
I've been trying to, John,
okay.
But it's very hard to keep interested in it when you already know what the fuck has been going on all this time. But you know, but there's something you said about Leo kind of going into the Dáil then and saying, yeah, it was, you know, going to look into it. One thing, I think Leo behaves very aloof to his cabinet. You know, the way he's these separate selfies and photos going on and his spin unit. He seems to have his own team, and but just for him. And then the affairs of government and the Dáil, you know, the leaders' questions, and that just seems to be like a distraction for him. So his behavior this week, or sorry, it's in the last 7 to 10 days on this, would suggest that I'm not a million miles off there, that he just finds all that a distraction. He just wants to go out and get his photograph taken and you know, get selfies taken. Is that
certainly. So Olga, just
but I mean, if Leo Varadkar, like they have just got to deal with this now. This is going on how many years? Like, how many justice ministers? How many teachers? Like, how many Garda? You know.
You know what? They're waiting for everyone to retire.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
But I just
retire, and the same with that girl in Dublin City Council. She's going to retire now, I bet you, before Christmas.
Right. Well, we don't know that. In fact, you know, I mean, I don't know. I think she's obviously in the wrong job. I mean, in terms of the homeless executive, she seemed completely semi-detached from what was happening on the streets in Dublin. But and yet, I can see I mean, it's obvious that like, why are there so many homeless charities? Shouldn't there like be one big homeless charity or agency that they could?
Yeah, I said when we were doing it earlier on, like, I'm afraid to say whether she was right or wrong, because in one way I don't really know, but it does echo of some events that happened last year with the Apollo, where those that are full-time and fully engaged in actually operational level said, well, there is beds here. These beds were empty last night, you know. So I'm inclined to leave it to those that are based, like in my own area of work, you know. I'm hands-on. I know what's going on at ground level, so I don't need to listen to people on News Talk or, you know, whatever the show is now, Vinnie Yates or something. But I know exactly what's going on, so I'm not going to try and guess what's really going on with this particular area of work, you know.
We just got an email in. There are actually quite a lot of family home evictions now in Dublin.
Dublin is incredible, because that county registrar sits twice a week, whereas in Kilkenny might be once a month.
And they said the banks are dictating the legal proceedings, not just with the lawyers.
But they are in Dublin, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I've thrown up the papers. It's now 8 minutes to midnight, but they're up now. I'll give you, if you can do the screen share thing.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Sorry, just give me a sec.
Story by Michael Clifford about
a whistleblower, I think, in the prison service. I think there was some sex harassment or covered up. And I think the person is working in some other agency. Just get it. Sorry.
They're up now. Johnny? Is Johnny there? Johnny?
Yeah.
Johnny, you seem very isolated because you can't use your mic.
No, I'm grand. That's a good thing.
That's good.
I wonder how long it'll be before Leo wants to get a selfie with the new baby rhino there in his constituency. He's a constituent of Leo's, isn't he? The new baby rhino.
Dublin Zoo. Yeah, that'll be right, wouldn't it?
Oh, look, unique insight from Rubbery's sharpest columnist in the Examiner.
Okay.
I'm doing your job, sorry.
No. Well, I suppose we'll just talk about the one that we're. So Nick Clifford has a story there. Probant claims sexual harassment was covered up. Case was settled for 100k after prison service was advised it shouldn't reach court, says whistleblower. So basically, an investigation is launched following allegations that a serious case of sexual harassment within the prison service was covered up. It's also alleged that the man at the centre of the case has since left the service and is now employed in a state agency where he has contact with minors.
Okay.
Yeah. there, Lisa Marie Maher from Ratut came to meet with her son Harry, lighting a candle in remembrance of Harry's grandfather, Lisa Marie's father, Eugene Maher, at the Road Safety Authority World Day of Remembrance.
Okay.
Oh, yes, yeah. CIT had signed off an own retirement function. So that's the Cork Institute of Technology. It's the story there by Niall Murray. He's being asked for a full explanation of how its ex-president, Brendan Murphy, personally signed off on more than half the €13,000 costs of two functions to mark his own retirement. I think that came out of the Public Accounts Committee, didn't it? Yeah. Higher Education Authority is also seeking full explanation from CIT after a letter to the PAC. Yeah. Talked about that.
We spoke about that very much. We did earlier, yeah.
You did, yeah, okay. Complaints over rent rates double since 2016. The number of complaints about soaring rents has more than doubled. Lending wage claims that some landlords are flouting caps in rent pressure zones. So that's the measures that came in. There's also the story there at the bottom, 13 arrests and 10 million in drugs seized in cartel raids. Like, that was blanket coverage today, so I think most people probably are well up to date on that. Just in the Irish Times, Ireland to resist hard border, even if UK exit deal fails. By Telly.
It's an endless Brexit story.
Yeah.
That could be applicable for any day in the next 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, it's kind of. So, German party rejects plan for bailout payback. Outgoing German government party to vote against Ireland's early repayment plan. Derek Scally and Joe Brennan, after a starring role in the Paradise Papers, Ireland will next week face attempts in Berlin to extend its stay in financial purgatory. The Germany Social Democratic Party is pressing for the German Parliament, the Bundestag, to block Ireland's plans for an early repayment of bailout loans totaling 5.5 billion.
This was Pascal Donoghue's idea to pay them early.
Yeah. That was about 2 months ago, was it? Maybe 6 months ago.
Us money in the long term, he said. But they're going to refuse that because of our tax dodginess.
Yeah, we won't go along with this pass. We won't go along with this free pass for Ireland because we don't want ongoing tax dumping in the EU, says Carsten Schneider, the SPD Parliamentary Party's General Secretary. We're not talking about Ireland's 12.5% tax rate here, but secret deals that reduce that tax burden to near zero.
Show us
So
the
there you
secret
go.
deals.
Okay.
Yeah. More tree cover reduces rate of asthma. There's a story there about SiteServe, sorry, and it's in the business section of the Irish Times. Investigators scrutinising the sale of SiteServe to a company controlled by Dennis O'Brien do not plan to tell Catherine Murphy, TD, to give oral evidence.
Okay.
So, and I think there's been requests for longer time for that as well, wasn't there, John?
Yeah.
The Guardian there, cult of personality blamed as theatre apologises for Spacey. Inquiry finds Star Power led to failings at Old Vic. 20 allegations dating as far back as 1995.
So it's the cult of personality. Well, that's Leo could spin that now, no problem.
Give or take a constant.
I said that now, you get cross with me.
This is on the side there. Trump is a fascist kind of figure, says Stiglitz.
Yawn.
And coffee.
This is great. Sorry, the Express, I think, is the best.
The Express?
Oh, I can go back to drinking coffee, look.
3 cups a day, you can beat cancer. At least 3.
I hear tomorrow they'll be telling us 3 cups a day gives you cancer. Do you know? No?
And
yeah, the Mirror will tell us that 3 cups of coffee.
I'm screwed because I don't drink coffee. I drink tea.
It's time to start, man.
Sorry?
It's time to start. So there's the Sylvester Stallone story.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, the Daily Mirror, Stallone sex assault on girl 16. A girl of 16 told police Sylvester Stallone and his bodyguard first forced her to have sex with them. It was claimed.
Look at that, the shakedown. The Saudi princes are getting done for their millions.
Yeah, in conspiracy news, me and Bodger are very conspiratorial. This Saudi Arabia thing. Please keep an eye on that. It's an incredible story. And
yeah.
Any update on the conspiracy show, John?
Well,
can we pick a date?
Well, the tinfoil chat is going to happen, and
the tinfoil,
but maybe not on a Thursday. I'm thinking like on a Tuesday or Monday or even a Friday night when people are less judgmental, and I don't get
Is that what it takes?
So what night is good for you, John?
I get verbally
tell us.
bullied and
Judgmental.
viciously. It's nice.
Friday, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m.
Go up against the late.
No, Tupper Day have everyone riled up into a frenzy that they'll turn off and tune in. Hashtag 10 file hat. Classic, John.
Well, Chaz.
Love it.
I think it should be our New Year's show.
10 file show.
Okay. Well, no,
I like the sound of that.
I want to get Jim Core involved, and I'd like to get all the boys together.
I want all the chorus involved.
Maybe get an Ike.
You get the Rocket, but you get Dwayne.
Get Alex Jones and Ike. We'll have a proper Google hangout.
What about What about Dwayne? We could see if that's actually real,
Vanessa.
They are real, Vanessa. They are real. He wouldn't have much time for you if you were dating him because he has to eat so much food.
They're real and they're magnificent.
But this is it.
Okay, so Neil, thank you so much for the Neil Curran for the entertainment slot, which would be right.
I'm just saying about the star there, lads. Look, it's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah, we need to know, John, about those Christmas lights. I mean, that's a big conspiracy theory now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna reveal all next week. It's a long saga, but I'll get to it all next week. Thank you very much.
It's like a load of balls, sir.
Sorry, Johnny. Johnny Keenan in Kilkenny, to Neil Curran in Dublin, Olga Cronin in Dublin, also Vanessa Foran in Dublin via Cork. There's something I forgot to say.
Lucky.
Thank you to Lucky Kambula, and the Direct Vision March meets at the Garden of Remembrance at 2 p.m. on Parnell Square on 2 p.m. on Saturday. There was something else I missed it. I've forgotten it now. Anyway, not to worry. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you on the site tomorrow or here next week at the same time, 10 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Awkward silence. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We're still on.